The case of Thomas Sophonow remains to be one of the weirdest wrongful convictions in Canadian history. The event started the night of December 22nd, 1981. The day before the crime, Thomas Sophonow had just arrived in Winnipeg from Vancouver. Sophonow was wishing to see his 2-year-old daughter during the Christmas holiday season. His ex-wife refused to let him see their daughter, so Sophonow left a gift with relatives. The next day, he went to the Canadian Tire to get his brakes repaired. During the night, he bought and filled stockings with candies and toys, and then delivered them to children's wards at local hospitals. The gifts were for children who wouldn't be home for Christmas. Later in the night, he would call his mother. This was the alibi he never initially told the police. That same night, a suspicious man was spotted in the Ideal Donut Shop in Winnipeg. Barbara Stoppel, only 16 years of age, was working as a waitress in the shop. The man was seen locking the doors of the shop and talking with Barbara. Witnesses say he went to the back of the shop after speaking with her. The man ran out of the doors and was seen throwing something in the river, but witnesses who chased him never caught up to him. Barbara Stoppel was found in the women's washroom, barely alive and gasping for air. The man had strangled her with a piece of twine. Barbara died a few days later in hospital. Sophonow was rounded up along with other men, and the police had eyewitnesses choose who they thought the murderer was. None of the eyewitnesses chose Sophonow. The police later interviewed every person in the lineups. They never recorded the interviews or wrote anything down. They brought Sophonow back for a second interview, where they used traumatizing techniques to get him to talk. He was subject to a strip and anal cavity search. That search was completely unnecessary, as Sophonow was not even arrested at the time, and the police still had others to interview who were never subject to the same searches. The police were so harsh that they convinced Sophonow that he committed the murder of Barbara Stoppel. He was told he blacked out and murdered this young waitress. He was so traumatized he believed them and admitted to the murder. He completely forgot about his alibi and was arrested without protest. He was taken to the lockup. In the facility, an undercover police constable was there and to tell the police anything that Sophonow confessed while arrested. Sophonow showed the undercover constable how he locked the donut shop door. Since he had an alibi, it is presumed that the police showed him how the door was locked in the second traumatizing interview, and that was imprinted in Sophonow's mind. The police recovered the piece of twine that was used to strangle Barbara, and believed it was from a twine company in Washington, which would be very accessible in Vancouver, where Sophonow lived. A test could have been performed for $100 to see where the twine was from. If the police ran the test, they would have found out the twine was actually from a plant in Winnipeg. Police were subject to tunnel vision, as they only pursued evidence that would get Sophonow arrested and not prove him innocent. Unreliable eyewitnesses also played a key role in the misjustice of Sophonow. One of the key witnesses in the trial, John Dorkson, had visited a hypnotist prior to his testimony. The story he told was different than what actually happened because of his memory session with the hypnotist. Furthermore, when told to choose the murderer out of the line in front of him, which included Sophonow, he simply said he did not see the murderer. Furthermore, he later saw Sophonow at the public safety building and also in the newspaper, which convinced him it was Sophonow who was the murderer. Jailhouse informants wished to testify at Sophonow's cases in hopes that their sentence would be reduced if they told the court that Sophonow was guilty. A total of 11 jailhouse informants testified and lied at the Sophonow trials. One even got out of jail for testifying. After 3 failed trials and almost 4 years in custody, Sophonow was acquitted. He tried to return to his normal life, but all his co-workers continued to treat him like a murderer. He now suffers from PTSD and other mental illnesses, as during his time in custody, he found a cellmate who had committed suicide. He continued to fight for his innocence, and in 2000, Winnipeg police confirmed that it was not Thomas Sophonow who murdered Barbara Stoppel. He now lives with his wife in British Columbia and is dedicated to renovating their 126-year-old home. Barbara Stoppel's murderer was never found.